after Sony opened the PlayStation 5 showcase to show off two of my most anticipated games, Final Fantasy XVI and Spider-Man, Miles Morales. Sony took my heart into space, the company that brought me back to Earth when Hogwarts Legacy was revealed. The game leaked online years ago, so its existence wasn't a huge surprise, but seeing it officially announced and knowing the controversy that followed still felt like a blow. With this game announcement putting Harry Potter back in the headlines, I knew it would make J more visible. Rowling and her toxic, transphobic views, like lightning and thunder in a storm, although it was expected, it still struck me. Trans people are used to this feeling. We feel it every time we get into our favorite 90 Seconds TV show and stumble upon an episode we've forgotten. J.K. Rowling, the creator of Harry Potter, has repeatedly proudly stated and displayed her transphobic views. It would take too long to detail Rowling's full history with transphobia, but a good place to start is her own blog post on the matter and then debunk some of the false claims and inaccuracies in that blog post. Apparently, her transphobic views are also addressed in her new book, in which a man disguises himself as a woman to kill other women. Variations on this trope have already appeared in The Silence of the Lambs and Dressed for Killing, so this transphobia isn't even original. Rowling has been criticized for these views in the past, so perhaps that's why Warner Bros. The game's FAQ states that she has no direct connection to Hogwarts Legacy. However, Harry Potter is Rowling's creation, so she can profit financially from the game. We don't know if it's a one-time license fee she's already paid, or if it's tied to a percentage of sales, but since Rowling is the owner and creator of Harry Potter, the game would be worthless without her approval. Impossible to exist. The game also has the potential to boost sales of Harry Potter books and merchandise, which in turn generates revenue for Rowling. Rowling is already very wealthy, and the money she makes from Harry Potter books or accessories doesn't really bother me. Relevance is the problem. Whatever makes Harry Potter relevant will keep him relevant. Rowling isn't just transgender, she's a trans figurehead, a respected face of hate, a celebrity face of transphobia. As the author of Harry Potter, she is one of the most famous public figures in the world. Anything that gets her in the media also perpetuates her transphobia in the media and causes more pain for trans people. It's not just the money, it's the influence that money buys, the status that comes with her fame and relevance, and the fact that her influence is more damaging than her bank balance. When Rowling tweeted it, it made headlines. Her tweets have been in the news a lot over the past year, whether she was linking to her transgender blog post, pretending to forget the word woman, or casually spouting transphobia about a sick child who was peppered with profanity. And who sent her. Drawing. Few people, even those with more money than Rowling, can do that. Her influence is felt around the world and shapes the public policy conversation. A Republican senator from Oklahoma quoted her directly when she rejected an LGBTQ+ rights bill in June. So what does all this mean for gaming? Is it unethical to buy it? The lack of transphobia in the trailer makes Hogwarts Legacy seem like a weird, cool, open-world RPG, if a little underwhelming. However, I wouldn't buy this game regardless of how it's presented. Hogwarts Legacy and Rowling are too intertwined, and there are too many other great video games out there for me to spend time on a game as compromised as this. But a few people have asked me if they would be allowed to play the game given Rowling's story. I don't allow myself to speak for all trans people or even tell my friends what they can or can't do. To paraphrase Reverend Lovejoy from The Simpsons, I say, short answers, yes and yes. Long answers, no and but. Regardless of Warner Bros., the Hogwarts Legacy is likely to try to distance Rowling, directly or indirectly profit from her, and expand her fame and influence, all of which can be used to further spread hate against trans people. I feel like you're helping directly by buying the game, but you may also feel like you're less likely to make a difference if you don't buy the game. In the big picture, you probably won't. One sale or even 100 won't make a difference. Instead, it's a decision that can make an impact in many smaller, more personal ways. If you decide to make your decisions and reasoning public, trans people will see your point of view on the matter and can adjust their perception of you accordingly. Conversely, promoting a game, sharing screenshots, or talking about it can be harmful on a microscopic level because your trans friend is watching while they're sitting on the sidelines. You throw yourself into Rowling. Remember that many trans people love Harry Potter and its escapism and were brutally disenfranchised by the woman who suggested it. Plus, when you think about why you can't live without a game, putting it on the shelf is a small but important act of solidarity. Hogwarts was not created by Hatsune Miku, nor did it come from outer space. It was created by J.K. Rowling. If you can't wait to get back to creating her work in the Hogwarts Legacy, you just can't shake that feeling of need. While Harry Potter fans were debating whether to buy Hogwarts heirlooms on social media, I saw the villain of the Trinity. The first is that the launch of the game was terrible timing. While it's true that Rowling's new book is out, the reveal of Hogwarts Legacy doesn't seem like such a bad time. Rowling was transphobic 6 months ago, and she will be transphobic 6 months from now. It's not so much bad timing as bad optics. You're excited right now to look bad because this week's headlines are her hate. But I guarantee you that when this game is published, your passion will always make trans people like me saddened by Rowling's views. The next bad practice I see is alternating between I feel sorry for the developers and I'm against it. But it's not fair to the developers. If you feel sorry for the developers, that's fine, but they're paid. Yes, they can also get a bonus if the game sells well, and yes, a failure on their resume can make their next career more difficult. With a game of this size, the project is likely to involve many vulnerable groups, including transgender people. If you buy every game from a major studio because you feel an obligation to the developer, then buy Hogwarts Legacy too. But if you don't, you can't use that as an excuse this time. Also, those who say I would boycott the game but fundamentally misunderstand the purpose of the boycott. When Papa John's founder John Schnatter used a racial slur, it led to a massive boycott and eventually his resignation. It wasn't because the boycotters thought everyone in the company was racist, but because they wanted to turn Schnatter on. For pizza, of course, you can go straight to Domino's or Pizza Hut. The Witcher game has no choice. You either don't play it, or you decide you want it more than you care about attitude. Unlike in the case of Papa John's, there is currently no mass movement to boycott the game. Instead, the Hogwarts Legacy trailer had the most views of any PS5 showcase trailer. Harry Potter is a huge franchise, which means the game is poised to sell in huge numbers. Boycotts rarely gain enough traction to derail a company or project of this scale. In this case, the decision to boycott the game would be a more personal act, intended to show solidarity and make feel supported. This leads to the final and perhaps most outrageous of the trilogy: no one cares outside of Twitter. This argument is often used by people to justify buying games by relegating trans trauma to Twitter drama. It's annoying, mostly because it isn't. Rowling has invested her name and influence in a growing campaign against transgender rights that affects real-life transgender people every day. This week, the UK government decided to scrap aggressive reforms to the Gender Recognition Act, despite the policy's 70% approval rating. Transgender-related hate crimes also rose by 81% in the UK last year, and even with increased visibility, trans people are one of the most vulnerable minorities. Transgender hate should not be equated with low-stakes, hard-hitting tweets like The Last of Us Part 2 shooter was uninspired. It's about whether trans people should have rights. But the spirit of the phrase "nobody cares" can be a depressing truth. Not so much that nobody cares, but those who say they don't, and they won't listen to anyone who thinks otherwise. The rush to defend Hogwarts Legacy, to apathetically, disaffectedly analyze Rowling's transphobia as a trivial factor in the sales numbers, and to ignore the harm it does to trans people, is probably enough for people not to worry about selling symptoms that might not need much of a fight. If you make this argument, ask yourself, does being trans matter to me? As the game gets closer, we'll see more excuses from people. They and their circle are not engaged in a Twitter farce. They think transphobia is a Twitter drama, is a sideways glance, an experiment, and a fascinating sociological study of the impact of social justice policies on game sales. They ignore the harm trans people face every day, nothing more than a viral tweet they read and forget. But it's not an intellectual exercise for me. I'm not buying Legacy of Hogwarts, not because I think my decision to boycott it would cause Rowling's transphobic empire to crumble around her, but because I have a decision to make. Not buying video games is a simple example of direct action. I know that other trans people will support me, and I know that some allies will support me. I also understand that some people don't. If you decide to buy this game, I hope you do so knowing J.K. Rowling's transphobia. But remember, when you're asked if you want to be with your trans friend or her, it only takes one open-world role-playing game to hook you. If you've ever declared your ally by saying you no longer support J.K. Rowling, now is the time to prove it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and support my channel.